If you have too many interests and it feels like your life is just a pile of almost finished things, this video is for you. I'm going to show you why that pattern isn't automatically a flaw and how to make it stop turning into shame. Because here's the twist. In a world that changes fast, having multiple interests can be a form of intelligence. The real trap is not that you can't commit. It's that you keep judging a non-linear brain with linear rules, and you try to build every skill at the same time instead of in seasons. In a second, I'll show you the exact moment where this starts to feel like failure, because it's smaller and more common than people admit. It's a Sunday afternoon, and you're sitting on the bedroom floor with a notebook you were excited about a few months ago. You flip a couple of pages, feel nothing, and set it next to a half-assembled shelf you promised you'd finish. Your phone lights up with a tutorial you saved even earlier, and a quiet thought shows up. Why does everything I touch turn half done? That moment is usually where the story hardens into shame. What matters is not the objects or the hobbies, it's the sequence. You feel a spark, you begin, the novelty fades, and you interpret that fade as proof that something is wrong with you. Most people stop there and try to fix it with discipline. But if you slow the moment down, you'll see a different pattern running underneath. Now zoom out for a second, because this didn't come from nowhere. For a long time, success ran on a simple rule. Pick one lane, go deep, and stay there. Schools rewarded it, companies hired for it, and praise followed people who didn't drift. In that kind of world, depth was safety. If the rules stayed the same, specialization paid you back. The problem is, the rules don't stay the same anymore. Industries shift, tools expire, and identities that felt solid 5 years ago can become fragile fast. When the environment turns unstable, a brain that samples widely isn't broken, it's scanning. And when you judge that scanning by an old standard, it starts to feel like failure instead of adaptation. This is where people misunderstand what multi-interest minds actually do. They don't move randomly, they connect. You'll notice it in small moments, like explaining a work problem using a gym analogy without thinking, or borrowing a concept from one field to clarify another. It doesn't feel impressive when it happens. It feels casual, but that's synthesis at work. The reason this still hurts is because synthesis doesn't show up as a clean resume line. You don't look like the best at one thing, so comparison starts eating at you. You see people your age hitting clear milestones, and your path feels blurry by comparison. That comparison creates pressure, and pressure pushes you into the next mistake. The mistake is trying to develop everything at once. You open your calendar on Monday and block time for learning, writing, fitness, and a business idea in the same week. By Thursday, everything slips, and by the weekend, you're exhausted and disappointed in yourself. It looks like a motivation problem, but it isn't. What's actually happening is energy collapse. Each interest asks for focus, uncertainty, tolerance, and emotional risk. When too many ask at the same time, none get enough to grow. The brain responds by stalling, delaying, and numbing out. That's when scrolling replaces starting, and later becomes the default answer. So, if this feels familiar, here's the key thing to hold on to. It was never about having too many interests. It was about trying to build all of them in parallel. In the next part, I'll show you the alternative model that makes this kind of mind work without burning you out, and why timing matters more than commitment. Here's the shift that changes everything, and it's quieter than people expect. Instead of asking which interest is the real one, you start asking which season you're in. An M-shaped path doesn't grow by stacking everything at once. It grows by letting one pillar take the lead while the others rest without dying. Picture a normal evening. You're at your desk, and one project is open on purpose. Another notebook sits nearby, closed, not abandoned. The difference matters. When you say, "not now," instead of "never," your nervous system relaxes. You're no longer forcing yourself to choose an identity forever. You're choosing focus for a window of time. This is what people miss when they talk about commitment. Commitment doesn't mean merging all your interests into one heroic project. Most of the time, that just creates pressure and fantasy. Real progress comes from sequencing. One thing pays the bills or anchors the day, the others stay alive in smaller, protected spaces, nights, weekends, or mental background. It looks boring from the outside. It feels stable on the inside. It was never about commitment, it was about timing. When you honor timing, guilt starts to loosen. You stop treating curiosity like a betrayal and start treating it like a resource that needs pacing. That's when momentum returns. Not in bursts, but in something steadier. There's also a deeper reason this structure works, and it has nothing to do with productivity hacks. In biology, systems survive through redundancy. Nature doesn't rely on one fragile solution. It keeps backups. Your range of interests works the same way. Each skill, even the half-used ones, becomes a quiet layer of protection. Think about the last time you read bad news about an industry shifting or jobs disappearing. If your identity rests on one narrow role, fear spikes immediately. But if you've lived in multiple domains, the fear still shows up. It just doesn't paralyze you. You don't start from zero, you pivot. That confidence isn't arrogance, it's stored experience. This is why those unfinished hobbies weren't a waste. They were exposure. They taught your brain how to enter new rooms, learn new languages, and tolerate beginner discomfort. They built adaptability long before you needed it. What felt scattered was actually rehearsing resilience. So the reframe is simple, but heavy. You weren't meant to be one thing. You were meant to move between things, in sequence, with intention. The work now isn't to erase your interests. It's to organize them in time, so they stop competing and start cooperating. In the last part, I'll pull this together and leave you with one question that helps you decide what season you're in right now, without shame or pressure. So let's close the loop cleanly. The reason your path has felt confusing isn't because you lack discipline or direction. It's because you've been measuring a non-linear mind with linear expectations and calling adaptability a flaw. Once you see that, the shame loses its grip. Those unfinished interests stop looking like evidence against you and start looking like a record of how your brain learns, tests, and survives change. You don't need to compress yourself into one lane to become stable. You need to give your interests time, order, and room to take turns. If you remember one thing, remember this. It was never about having too many interests. It was about asking them all to grow at the same time. So here's the question I'll leave you with. If you looked at your life honestly, what season are you actually in right now? And which one interest deserves to lead without guilt for the next stretch of time? In the next video, I want to go deeper into how to recognize the moment a season is ending before burnout forces the decision for you.